Hi everybody. So I had a chance this morning to go in and look at the work you did on activity number 3 on summary. I was pretty happy with what I was seeing in there. One of the things I asked you all to do at the end was to let me know if you had any questions or concerns about writing the academic summary. Some of you said not yet, but you probably will when you start writing. Some of you asked very unique questions, and so I gave you some feedback in my response comments. But a lot of you asked about two things that were kind of similar: comprehension and this whole idea of keeping opinions out, or objectivity. So I just wanted to make a screencast so that I could address those two things for everybody at one time and then share that feedback with everyone in the class. And so the first issue here, comprehension. So some of you are wondering, am I going to understand this text well enough to summarize it? And so what we're working with for the academic summary is Carol Dweck. So we're using her video on growth mindsets. So we're not actually using something from ethics, like we're not using Dennett or some philosophical argument or something written by Aristotle, thousands of years ago. And so this text should be definitely more accessible to you than some of the things that you might encounter in a philosophy class. But this video is really important to both me and to Eric, because we sort of feel like the ideas that Dweck has about growth mindset really lay the groundwork for the kind of learning we want you to do in this course. And so that's why we're asking you to work with a video and to work with Dweck instead of working with some older text that maybe would be more relevant to philosophy. And so there are a couple ways a couple of things that have been built into the class to help you with this comprehension piece. I think most of you are going to have a pretty good handle on what it is that she's saying, but you might get confused by a couple of the details along the way. And there's a couple of places where I can intervene and help you with that. So the first place will be in activity number 4, which most of you have already completed. And that's where you answered those questions about Dweck's video. And that's really my way of checking with your comprehension, so that long before you write the academic summary, I can go in and say, are the students in this class really getting what it is that Dweck's saying? Are they getting confused anywhere? And so if I see you going off the rails a little bit or getting confused or pulled in a different direction with Dweck, then that's a place for me to intervene and give you some feedback and say, hey, I think you're a little confused about this. Maybe go back and look at it again, or maybe I'll just help you with the interpretation. So I'm going to intervene there. If you look like you're understanding her ideas fully and accurately, then I'll probably just give you a thumbs up and say, keep going. The other place for intervention where I will check for your comprehension is in the practice summary. So this weekend, I think it's by Sunday night, you need to try your hand at writing an academic summary. It's not going to be perfect. It may not be beautiful. It's just a first draft. So you're just taking a first shot at this. And then that gives me a chance to go ahead and look at what your first draft looks like and start to give you some intervention comments. So each person in class will get a set of comments back from me early next week, letting you know what's working and maybe what you need to work on. And I'll address comprehension in there. So if I think you're misrepresenting an idea or you're not conveying that idea clearly or fully, then I will let you know in the margin comments. I'll help you work that out. So there are two places between now and when your essay is due where you will get checked on your comprehension. So hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better. And of course, you can always reach out to me and or Eric if you have questions, if you're struggling with comprehension. Okay, the other piece, and this came up a lot, has to do with this objectivity. What does it mean to be objective? What does it mean to keep our opinions out of an academic summary? And so this may be kind of new for some of you, and I totally understand if you have questions about it or why this may seem odd or confusing. And so the word objective may be throwing you because it sounds so it sounds so inflexible. And so I guess what I would say is to recast it in this way: aim for neutrality, okay? So you're not praising the article, you're not disparaging the article, and in this case we're talking about a video. You're really looking to articulate in your own words what it was that the author or the speaker had said, so that somebody who hasn't seen her video would be able to understand it and get the main ideas from your representation of it. So the idea here is to present the author's ideas to your reader in a way that is similar to how those ideas were presented to you. Okay? So another way I like to think about this is just, if the author was to come along and actually, if Dweck was to come along and actually read your summary, would she nod her head in agreement? Would she say, yeah, that's pretty much what I said. That's a nice representation of what I talked about. Or would she say, I don't know, you're kind of twisting my words, or you're misrepresenting some of the points that I made. So if the author would agree with your representation, then you've probably done a pretty good job. This idea of objectivity trips people up because it kind of suggests that we can be 100% objective, but as a couple of you pointed out, is that even possible? And I would agree with you, no. We're human, so we're prone to biases. Words carry connotations. There's no way that we can filter our language to be, we would sound like a dictionary probably, which I would argue dictionaries are not even objective. And so even though we're using the word objective, I think neutral is probably a better word to go with. Okay, so somebody asked, this is a fascinating question. How am I going to be positive about something that I'm not agreeing with? Would this be considered lying? I love it because it's kind of an ethical question that is being thrown out here. Okay, so a couple of points. I would just urge you to think about summarizing not so much as agreeing, but representing what it is that somebody else said. So it's almost like, let's say I was moderating an argument between my two children. They might say wildly crazy things, accusing each other of whatever, to explain to me why they're in a fight. I may not have to agree with either of their perspectives, but if I want to show them that I'm listening, I might say, Addison, what I hear you saying is this. I think that you view the situation this way. And I might say to my other daughter, Kaylin, what I hear you saying is this. So it's kind of like that same act of what I hear you saying is this. So you're representing, not agreeing. I also want to point out that Dweck's ideas are far less controversial than somebody like Dan Dennett. And so you all read Dan Dennett, and I'm sure some of you felt a little prickly in response to what he had to say, because those are controversial thoughts and ideas. So we're not asking you to dig into something that's highly controversial. I think Dweck's work is pretty commonly accepted at this point, and it's even frequently being integrated into high schools, middle schools. So you may have even heard of some of these ideas as you were going through your schooling in recent years. And so far less controversial, so hopefully that won't be so much of an issue. And then finally, the last question, what if some of my opinions sneak in? That can happen sometimes. I totally get it. We're all human. If I see too many opinions coming out in your draft summary, I will give you comments and let you know. So I think that is pretty much it. I guess I'll give you one more example down here. If you want to pause the video, you can, and you can read these 3 examples. This is just giving you an idea of what neutrality looks like. So this first one is an example of it's not neutral. Dweck hits the reader with an incredibly new and fascinating idea about mindsets. I've seen sentences like these in summaries before, and that's just because a student's excited about the ideas, they like the ideas, and they're trying to give her some props here, but we don't want to do that again because we don't want to bias our reader toward the material before they've had a chance to make up their mind about it. So you could just say, Dweck hits the reader with her idea about mindsets theory or something like that, and that would be neutral. This example is a negative one. Dweck tells her readers about mindsets theory, demonstrating how inadequate our education system really is. It's obvious that schools have contributed to the problem of a fixed mindset with instruments like tests and grades. Okay, well, Dweck doesn't actually say that. I mean, would she agree with it? Maybe. I'm not sure because she doesn't go that far in her article. I mean, are there students and readers who might pull that interpretation onto the text? Sure, I think so. But you want to be careful to stick precisely to what it is that she does say, not something that might be like 3 steps removed and implied. So here's an example of what a neutral summary statement might look like. Dweck explains that learners tend to embrace one of 2 different mindsets toward learning. The first is a fixed mindset. With a fixed mindset, a person believes that intelligence comes with birth and that you have as much as you were born with, and that can't be changed. The second is a growth mindset, etc., etc. So you can see how the language in here is far more neutral. It's less charged. It's really just doing the job of informing the reader, bringing them up to speed on what it is that Dweck talked about, what it is that Dweck argues for in her video. So I hope that this helps clear up any confusions that you have. Certainly feel free to reach back out to me if you have any lingering concerns, and I look forward to seeing your draft work along the way so that I can help you with the revision process. Thanks, everybody.